Welcome to week 2 of Hybrid American History. This week we're going to take a look at Americans that enter into World War II. As we do that, please review the following learning objectives. We'll take a look at the strengths and weaknesses of both powers of Allied and Axis forces. We're going to take a look at the battles on the European continent as well as the Pacific Ocean theater. And we're going to take a look at the life of soldiers, which we referred to during World War II as GIs. We'll discuss the impact on Japanese Americans while discussing internment camps. We'll also analyze the D-Day, or the Norman invasion in 1944. We'll also take a brief look at the Holocaust. We'll discuss the strategy of U.S. island hopping, and then looking at the two final events to World War II, that being the bombing of Hiroshima and the bombing of Nagasaki. First, when we look at Axis powers secured a large area of land. They quickly annexed many parts of European countries. During that time, we see that they take over the occupation of several Eastern European countries. They also are better prepared for war. And lastly, they have governments that are militaristically advanced and which prepare them better for battles early on in World War I. Keep in mind that the Axis powers did dominate the war from 1939 to 1941 and quickly occupied much of Europe as well as North Africa. On the other hand, Allied powers, they had a sizable land in the Soviet Union, thus the largest nation in the world at the time, and the Soviet Union also had a large military. Keep in mind the Soviet and German powers had agreed on a non-aggression act, but in 1941 the Germans violate that non-aggression act. Therefore, the Soviets will join the Allied powers in 1941. We also have the production capacity of the United States. Again, during that time, we see War Production Board, which increases military production. The GI War. When we talk about the GIs in this war, first, we have the Selective Training and Service Act of 1940. This act is the first peacetime draft in U.S. history. This incorporated soldiers from the ages of 18 to 45 later in the war, but began with ages 21 to 35 to register. Again, the first peacetime draft in U.S. history. We look at government issued. Again, that will be referred to as soldiers that again partake in World War II. And GI's background. Oftentimes, again, many soldiers during this time hailed from different ethnic groups. As we see with the next few slides, many Mexican Americans and African Americans played a huge impact in the war. And also we look at, again, the age of 18 to 25 being the majority of soldiers during this war. Again, when we look at Mexican Americans, they're going to comprise the largest ethnic group during World War II. When we talk about ethnic groups, we're referring to minority ethnic groups in the United States. And we also see there's less segregation and discrimination against the Mexican Americans. However, the same cannot be said about African Americans during this time. Native Americans, again, were found in special forces, and they were denied benefits after the war. With Jim Crow still looming large in the South, many historians will say that really discrimination in the South never ceased until after World War II. Well, in World War II, we see discrimination. We see segregation within troops. We see, again, increased number of African American troops. And there is the paradox, again, realizing that the oppression back home and they're fighting for freedom overseas. And we see the impact of the Tuskegee Airmen during World War II. There are loyalty issues. Again, Japanese Americans will be targeted. They will be allowed to volunteer for military service. They will form NISI units, and they will also be targeted domestically in internment camps. Many innocent Japanese will be placed in internment camps, most internment camps located in the western part of the United States, with notably California holding the most internment camps. At home, we see, again, increased effort by women, where we see 300,000 women volunteer for service. We see various organizations that many joined during this time. And we also see the increased domestic role incorporating as nurses, office work, and driving vehicles and ferried planes. And once again, with this last bullet point, these are services that they provided on the battlefield or located in war. So for the first time, we see women playing an active role within the war. Battles in Europe. When we look at the battles in Europe, we are taking a look at, again, as I already mentioned, that the Axis powers controlled much of World War II, from the invasion of Poland in 1939 to some of the battles that ensue shortly after 1942. And again, the importance of violation of the Non-Aggression Act, which German attacks Soviet Union. Again, many historians will say that this was a wrong step by Hitler and the Nazi Party. And we also see the Second Battle of El Alamein in 1942, which is an Allied victory. We also see the Atlantic War in 1943. And we also see the invasion of Normandy. Again, the invasion of Normandy is going to be a main turning point in World War II. Again, Normandy, yes, the United States will suffer many casualties in D-Day. However, D-Day is going to be a great success because Hitler will not send troop reinforcements, which again gives subtle gain of control of land back to the Allied powers. And thereafter, the Battle of the Bulge will be the last stand by the Nazi Party, and that again will be a battle that will be lost by the Axis powers and really ending all battles on Europe's soil. However, the battles will continue to ensue in the Pacific Theater, which we'll talk about in the next slide. But roughly a year later, the VA, which is Victory Day, is unconditionally acknowledged by Germany. Again, their surrender unconditionally. On the other end of the war, on the other geographical end, that is, we're looking at the Pacific Theater. Again, the Pacific Theater is looking at the warfare with militaristic Japan. During this time, the U.S. uses island hopping strategies. Again, island hopping strategies are to attack and seize only certain strategic Japanese-held islands. You can see in succession with the Makin Island first controlled, followed by the Marshall Islands and the Truk Islands, the Saipan, Guam, New Guinea, and Philippines is the last island of occupation. Also in 1942 is the Battle of Guadalcanal. This is an important battle because this battle guarantees that Australia will maintain sovereignty of their nation. It will not have Japanese occupation. The Battle of Iwo Jima is going to see mass casualties in the war. Again, that battle will last over 6 weeks and with over 20,000 Japanese troops dying. And then we see later the Battle of Okinawa. Again, main strategies used by the Japanese during this time are going to be kamikaze or suicide planes, again showing their willingness to die for any cause. And the Battle of Okinawa will end with over 700 planes attacked, or Japanese airplanes attacked, in probably the largest airplane battle within World War II. And we have the Manhattan Project. Again, the Manhattan Project is led by probably one of the most notable physicists, Albert Einstein. The Manhattan Project is done throughout huge research centers throughout the United States, most notably Los Alamos, New Mexico, and led by the director James R. Oppenheimer. The nuclear bombs are okayed by Harry S. Truman, the only president in U.S. history to end a war with using atomic weaponry. And on August 6, the Enola Gay bomber drops the first bomb on Hiroshima, and 3 days later, they bomb again Nagasaki. The experience during the war. Many, again, saw it wasn't quite like World War I where it was glorious and glamorous, but many saw that war, again, was a real-life endeavor that entailed harsh realizations such as fatalities. The fatalities, 16 million served, 322,000 were killed and 800,000 were wounded, and MIAs were numbered at 12,000. The cost of the war: the former surrender of Japan on September 2nd, again destroying the Japanese warlords, as well as the German Nazi parties destroyed. 30 million casualties are a result on both sides of the war. The military cost exceeding $1 trillion, and the rebuilding of European cities, especially noted in your text, is the rebuilding of Kiev, which again is going to be a city of contention to this day. Please go back to the learning objectives in slide 1 and make sure to review each objective so you clearly understand them, and again quiz yourself, and again you will utilize this information for the next step in completing your week 2 activity.